Hi. After years of trying to be somebody, of being many bodies, sometimes being anybody, of trying to perfect a personality type, to improve that personality type, to collapse from personality types, to try to create a sense of self, to move towards a broken self, to move out of a broken self, to try to imagine the best version of myself I've ever been. One ends up in a place of being okay with who one already is, rather than some created, social media reinforced, false sense of self. One becomes the same person everywhere I go, after years of different peer groups, different tribes, different intimate partners, different places and faces and relationships with all manner of peoples, all wonderful, all interesting, all available to be both wonderful and troubled and troubling, just as I myself am, just as no one of us is immune from. Yet finally, one comes to a place of being okay with however one is. Another way of saying that is to just be okay being where I am. If not, there's no clear, concise definition of who I am. I am just this, right here, right now. A personality plan that rises out of social, cultural, familial, spiritual, or the absence thereof of these, training, the way in which we are influenced by the worlds in which we inhabit, the way in which we are groomed and made into a socially acceptable construct that our culture defines as acceptable at that time frame in history. Changes across continent, across nation, changes in different time frames as the morality of, for myself as a younger child in the 1970s, is a different morality to that of the apparent 2020s that we're now beginning to move into or have moved into. And one has finally come to a place which I think all of the preceding activity were attempted to secure by works, an activity of finally just being happy, being okay as I am. I am as I am. In fact, I am, or the I am, is always how I have been, but it has been a movement into a sense of self and those cultural drivers and enablers of that to try to become something that was acceptable to others in order to feel acceptable towards myself. So and I'm not unique in this, we seek to find self-acceptance quite often through the ways in which we imagine others in the moment that we're in front of are responding to us. So we navigate who we are, change who we are, become chameleon-like, based on other people's responses to us. We are dynamic in that way, and there's a certain amount of usefulness in this when it's done in a healthy way, that we know not to speak in certain ways around some people, or to speak in certain ways around some people, or that we can speak and act and be certain ways around some people. Maybe when we're around our family, we can be much more who we are, much more truer to our own sense of self. Then again, maybe when we're around our families, it's very difficult to really be who we are, because they don't find us, or their version of how they see us, acceptable. Of course, often we are what we think other people think we are. We change ourselves to be what the other person finds acceptable. So to move through all of that, to come to a place of being okay with I am the way I am, is no mean place to arrive to, of course. Some people never even make it to adulthood, let alone having to consider such lofty undertakings as how I am with myself, or how I am moving through, how I am with other people. So it's really good to sit here and to just talk about and to acknowledge and to hear myself discuss being okay with who I am, the ways in which the nuances of how I am experienced by other people, perceived by other people, and of course I can never know another person's experience or another person's perception, but I rarely modulate myself in order to be acceptable to the environment that I'm in, finding myself living out of a source, capital S, of my own sense of self-awareness, self-acceptance, and the absence of the self in either of those things, of just a spontaneous, organic, erupting living to whatever one is presented with, relationships to people, places and things and environments. Being radically okay in the midst of the human experience, just being right here, right now. Not being overwhelmed by the mental walls, the mental infrastructure, not living any longer anymore out of the top half of the top part of the body in the last percentile of the engine room of the human experience, but living instead out of a centre of experience of life as I get to experience it around the people that know me and love me. Hopefully this is an undertaking that is appealing to others. I'm not unique in anything I've done or anything I'm discussing or anything I'm trying to communicate. This sense of being radically okay in the midst of just simply being came from my own search for meaning, my own search for self-acceptance, and my own desire to overcome the trauma of everything that went before, arriving in that place, the continual searching and the continual reimagining of the ego's ideas of who I should be, who I could be, who I would be, that I never finally got to. So here we are, content and happy in the moment, able to bear the vulnerability of others and able to look into difficulty and dark nights of the soul when they should come to visit. And there is an element of that around me at the moment as health evolves, devolves, same thing, as I've become an older person, which is very exciting. I'm very excited by the onset of aging. Every year that passes in the calendar is another reason to celebrate still being here, where so many I've known and loved and have met are no longer here. So, from becoming somebody to becoming nobody to finally leaving the body and becoming everybody and becoming everywhere. So it is. I am empty.